You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
And hello and welcome into the Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. Grant McAuley, Jake Mastroianni with you after what was, safe to say, an eventful game for the Atlanta Braves, an eventful win for the Atlanta Braves, but it did apparently come at a cost, and it had a little bit of everything. We're going to get into all of it here on the Braves POSTCAST. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta right here on YouTube, and make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. While you're here, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead, hit that like button. And if you like what you hear on the show, make sure you tell a friend as well. All of that helps the show grow. As far as the Braves in this game, they had a lead that just continued to grow throughout the night, but there were some unfortunate lowlights that went along with all the home run highlights we saw in this game. A 14-6 win over the Miami Marlins. A huge night for Marcell Ozuna, something he's been looking for quite some time. And for the Braves, 6 home runs in this game, Jake. Wow, this was just an offensive onslaught for Atlanta tonight.
Yeah, I'd like to take some of the credit here. I talked on the podcast on Wednesday about exit velocities and how the Braves are some of the best, or if not the best, in all of baseball. And boy, did they have some big exit velocity numbers in this game.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to speak it into existence. I was tweeting a little bit about Austin Riley maybe needing to get into that whole launch angle thing that he had going the last couple of years. He launched a home run in this game as well. Let's jump inside the box score where we all could feel pretty good about what the final numbers were there. Whether or not we were the great prognosticators of this kind of game, you'll take it nonetheless. Game number 31 of the year for the Braves, now 21-10, 14 runs on 18 hits, 1 error, 5 men left aboard, 38 total bases. We don't usually get into that one as far as line scores are concerned, but that'll play, as they say. Marlins now 16-15 as they continue to have trouble beating the Braves. Half a dozen runs, 12 hits, no errors, 7 men left on base. Colin McHugh picked up the win in relief because one of the lowlights of this game was Kyle Wright being forced out with a shoulder issue, which we'll talk about a little bit more. That happened in the third inning. McHugh kind of able to bridge the gap for the Braves, who did lean on the bullpen, and the bullpen was able to at least hold serve in this game as the offense continued its job. Braxton Garrett, meanwhile, this will be a start he'll want to file in the forget-me pile. 1-1 now on the year. No save in a game that lasted 2 hours, 47 minutes. Crowd of 10,248 paid to see it. And we always start with the starting pitcher, typically for the Braves, Jake, because it's usually a big part of how they won a game or why things might not have gone the Braves' way. Kyle Wright tonight, leaving with a shoulder issue. The team is calling it shoulder soreness. Brian Snitker said after the game, Wright is headed for the injured list. 2+ innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 3 earned, a walk, and 3 punch-outs, 55 pitches for Wright. He had a first inning that looked very different from his second inning, and clearly the third inning, he wasn't around very long.
Yeah, you just really hate to see it. You hope this isn't going to turn into a really big thing for Kyle Wright to the point where perhaps it comes a lost season. I don't think we're to that point yet, but it's got to be devastating for him, having the cortisone injection in the offseason because of that shoulder issue he's having, starting the year on the IL, coming back. It was just looking like we talked about yesterday. It's starting to look like he was getting back to himself. And now he has this. It's just, it really hate it for the player, for the guy who, worked so hard to get back out there. But clearly something's going on with that shoulder. He's going to need, as Snicker said, more time on the injured list to try to get that right. But again, I just have this feeling it's going to be a longer stretch of time off now. I mean, it's the second time that it's happened. You want to make sure you get that healed up and it doesn't become a huge thing down the road, but just really unfortunate for Kyle Wright, and that starting pitching depth is going to be tested once again. And as you said, we were finally getting that rotation fully healthy. I mean, best in all of baseball right now. And now you're taking another blow, losing a guy who won 21 games for you last year.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I mean, we're sitting here in the first week of May. I talked about this on local radio here in Atlanta on 92.9 The Game. I mean, he won 21 games last year, hasn't picked up his first victory of the season, was hoping that would change tonight, especially on a night that the Braves are going to score 14 runs. But for Kyle, it really started to show in the second inning. There was a little bit of a velocity drop. I went back through and looked at it. Almost 95 miles an hour on fastballs in the first inning as far as four-seamers are concerned. He was still 93.6, I believe, was the last four-seam fastball that he threw and the last batter he faced in the third inning. So not a huge drop, but he didn't look the same, and I really thought he was kind of whipping the ball outside of the strike zone quite a bit in that troublesome second inning for him. So, yeah, you hate to see that. I talked to Kyle throughout the spring. when he had come back off the injured list, made his rehab start in Gwinnett. Everything was feeling good. He said, yeah, I feel like I did the right thing. I got the injection. I took the time I needed to get ready and get back. And now it's time to get back in the swing of things. So you do hate it for him. And of course, we'll see how long this setback is for Kyle Wright. But, and we've seen, Jake, with the Braves and these injuries, they're not going to take any chances trying to force guys through things, especially here in the first month or two, the first half, because you want them for the long haul. And you got to kind of find out what can they do to help Kyle get right, no pun intended, with this shoulder injury.
And I think it helps as well. The team's gotten off to a good start. Yeah. And it's kind of, I think if they really needed Marcell Ozuna, I think he'd be up right now. But, with the way things are going for the Braves and they're continuing to win, they have this ability to be able to slow play some of these injuries and be cautious with some of these guys early on. And because of that depth as well that we've talked about, it's really afforded the Braves the opportunity to sit some of these guys out who are hurting and to try to make sure they get it taken care of now so that they're healthy at the right time at the end of the season. We know that's what's most important for this Braves team. Talked about it before. I feel like this Braves team is going to make the postseason. It'd be somewhat shocking if they didn't. The key is making sure you have the guys healthy and playing their best at the right time come the postseason, because we've seen a difference. Last year's team, much better than the year before, but the year before they were playing the best baseball at the right time. That wasn't the case last year. So you do want to try to knock these things out, get these guys healthy for the end of the season. And again, because of the good start the Braves have had, it's afforded them the opportunity to kind of maybe slow play some of these guys.
Yeah, and think about this too. When you look at the postseason of 2022, Spencer Strider was dealing with the oblique issue. Clearly that had not, healed up, and he had to take some time off at the worst possible time. Max Fried was sick as a dog. Kyle Wright was the guy that went out there and won your only postseason game in the NLDS. Now there's just some question about, what is his status going to be going forward? We'll find out. We're getting way ahead of ourselves with any postseason talk, but clearly if the Braves are lining up their best possible roster to make a run through October, you have to imagine Kyle Wright's central to that plan. So they want to get him healthy, get him going. We're going to talk about the Braves offense that got it going in a big way with half a dozen home runs in this game, including 2 from Marcell Ozuna, and the red-hot streak of Ozzie Albies continued in this one as well. We'll get to all of that after I tell you about our new sponsor, So Rare, a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards from all 30 MLB teams. Unlike your other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience. You collect, you buy, you sell, and compete with player cards against global opponents to win prizes. And win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. Head over to SoRare.com/lockedon to draft your team of player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. That's SoRare.com/lockedon to start playing today. Now let's talk about the Braves offense, which I would say on this day, runs were not as rare as they have been on some. They were, in fact, plentiful. Marcell Ozuna got it started with a grand slam in the second inning. The Braves scored 7 runs in that frame. For some reason, Braxton Garrett came back out after that, and that still baffles the mind. But we'll leave that for, Locked On Marlins to figure out, and good luck with that, Peter Pratt. But we've needed to see some kind of signs of life from Marcell Ozuna if he's going to continue to have a roster spot or get at bats with this team. Brian Snitker has said, and he said it again after this game, if you're hitting, you're going to play. And for Marcell, those at bats had kind of dried up. He didn't play much, and if at all, in that Mets series. Now you see 2-hit day against Sandy Alcantara, 3-hit day, 2 home runs, including the grand slam to get himself going. The Braves have been patient with this. They've been hoping Marcell's going to give them a reason to kind of feel vindicated for that patience. A game like this and a series thus far like this would go a long way towards helping Marcell finally get himself on track.
Yeah, I think Marcel's counting how many more games the Braves have left against the Marlins, because he obviously loves playing against his former team. But look, we said it all along. I know I said it during the offseason. I've said it during the season. Ozuna's capable of getting hot and hitting home runs in bunches. It's what happens in those 2 to 3 week, 4 week stretches sometimes in between there where he just gives you absolutely nothing and he becomes an automatic out in your lineup, is where he really hurts you. But he has the power. He hits the ball extremely hard. We know that. So he's capable of giving you these type of performances every now and then. And it's great, to see a good credit to him. Like you said, hasn't got a lot of playing time lately, gets put into the lineup and produces. So, credit to him for staying ready, getting his opportunity, making the most of it. We'll see how long this lasts. But, again, Michael Harris, we'll talk about, hurt on this one. You may need somebody to step up here pretty soon. Hopefully it's nothing serious there, but good for Ozuna either way. Again, being ready, getting his name called, and coming through, giving the Braves a reason to put him in. As we said yesterday, he has to earn this playing time at this point, and right now he's doing it.
Yeah, these past couple of games have been a big boost for Marcell as he's been able to push the batting average up, 40 or 50 points at this point. That's nothing when you're talking about moving into May. It happens a lot in April. It can go up and down with an 0 for 4 or a 3 for 3. Gets a little bit harder when you get off to the slow start that he did. But putting Marcell to the side, he did have a great game, knocked in 5 of the Braves' 14 runs, hit 2 of the Braves' 6 homers. We also saw Michael Harris, you mentioned him, big home run off a lefty, a no-doubter for him. Ronald Acuna Jr., homer number 6 on the year for Harris. That was his first, by the way. Austin Riley, homer number 6. That's a good sign. And Ozzie Albies, his team-leading 9th home run of the year. It is a lineup that we know is capable of hitting the long ball. They dialed up the long ball quite a bit in this game. Ozzie 4 for 5 with his home run, has the average up to 275. He's been red hot, Jake, for about 3 weeks, continues to drive in, runs in bunches for the Braves, finding his way on base. He just looks really confident at the plate right now.
Yeah, he does. And again, we've talked about it a lot over the last week or so as he's been hot, and it's great for this lineup. But everybody on this night, I mean, every starter had a hit. Every starter scored a run. 22 hard hit balls by the Braves in this game. I talked about the exit velocities earlier. I mean, just crazy numbers. Acuna had the hardest hit ball of the game at 116.7 miles per hour. That one went for a double play, but the one that he hit 114.2 miles per hour put a dent in the batter's eye out in center field, just absolutely crushed. And this was Braxton Garrett, a guy who came in only allowing 1 home run on the year, and the Braves tagged him in this one in a ballpark that is not generally known for allowing a lot of home runs. So again, it just goes to speak to the power of this lineup up and down when they're clicking like they were on this night. Just a ton of power, 6 home runs, 8 extra base hits, showing you what this lineup can do.
Yeah, and they can do a lot. We mentioned the 38 total bases for this lineup as well. You brought up Ronald Acuna Jr. He had that home run in this game. He hit the ball hard a lot. Unfortunately for him, he's probably going to want to forget that final at bat against Jacob Stallings, the Marlins catcher who was on the mound. Position player pitching alert. I don't find it to be that much fun anymore, and Ronald didn't enjoy that punch out. But I think in a night like this, a season like this that he's had, he's probably going to forget about that sooner than later. And oh, by the way, congratulations to Ronald Acuna Jr., National League Player of the Month for April. He's off to a fine start in May. If he wants to go ahead and make it back-to-back months, I think that would go a long way towards helping the Braves out. And we do need to discuss Michael Harris, who had a 2-hit game in this one, both those hits against lefties. I was feeling pretty good about, the night that was coming together for Michael, but then an injury for him as he has a jammed right knee, according to the team. It happened as he kind of stumbled on the other side of first base, kind of trying to bring himself to a stop. Just his footing, it got a little bit tangled up there. That was the top of the 6th inning. It took a minute for him to get up and leave, but he did leave under his own power. Team is calling it a jam knee. Brian Snitker said after the game, while Kyle Wright will head to the injured list, they're going to give Michael a day, probably stay away from him on Thursday, reevaluate him in the morning. But the Braves just got Michael Harris back after a 19-game absence. They'd like to keep him around, but that was certainly a scare.
Yeah, similar situation to Kyle Wright, a guy who, began the year banged up. You get him back. He gets his first home run. Seems like his swing's coming together. And then this happens, and it's just you feel for the player, the guy who worked hard to come back and now has this. Hopefully it's nothing major. You saw it happen. It looked like it was going to be something very serious. Hopefully that is not the case, and it is just a jam the knee, as they said, which I can't imagine that feels very good either, but could have been a lot worse for Michael Harris and the Atlanta Braves. So hopefully he's back pretty soon. We saw Acuna kind of do this a couple of times several years ago as well, running through first base. But again, just really hope it's nothing bad here for Michael Harris and he can come back, because again, was starting to finally look like himself. And with everybody else going in the lineup right now, get Michael Harris back in there going. Obviously, you know what he brings defensively. It just puts the Braves on a whole nother level.
Yeah, so we'll be monitoring the injury status of Michael Harris over the next few days. If it is just something as simple as a jam knee, maybe a little bit of hyperextension that went on, a couple of days of rest, hopefully he can avoid the injured list for the 2nd time already this season. We'll all find out together. We're also going to talk a little bit about Game 3 of this series as the Braves are looking to go for a sweep of the Miami Marlins, and we'll see if they're able to pull that off. We'll talk about tomorrow's starting pitcher, as well as all the other things you need to know about this series as the Braves continue their week. But I need to tell you about Rocket Money. First, Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Stop throwing money away, cancel unwanted subscriptions, and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. Now let's talk a little bit about Thursday. As we mentioned, Kyle Wright going to be heading to the injured list. Braves have not, I don't believe, announced that move officially yet, but that is going to be a thing that happens. Dylan Dodd, the lefty, is going to be brought up. Max Fried was originally penciled in to start the game. He's going to be pushed back to Friday. That was already planned before all of this went on with Kyle Wright. So just if you're holding your breath at all with that, Max Fried was scheduled to throw on Friday against Baltimore at Truist Park. Dylan Dodd coming up, got 2 starts before going back down to Gwinnett, where he has pitched okay. 1-1, though, 7.71 ERA. A great start against the Cardinals, not so great start against the Padres, but we know that Dylan Dodd has the profile that the Braves like, and they have seen him, show them a little bit of the promise. Hopefully he can tap into that and give the Braves at least 5 quality innings to help them maybe stretch out that bullpen just a little bit or save the bullpen just a little bit in the finale against Jesus Luzardo, fellow lefty, who will be on the mound, a tough customer for the Marlins.
Yeah, big ask for Dylan Dodd here because the Braves were looking at possibly doing a bullpen game here, and then they ended up having a bullpen game they didn't know they were going to have with Kyle Wright leaving early. So they're going to be hoping Dylan Dodd can get them a lot of innings in this one. An audition for Dylan Dodd, another opportunity here. Don't know how long Kyle Wright's going to be out for, but I think right now it's, Dodd was lined up to pitch. He was supposed to start in Thursday in Gwinnett, so the obvious choice here, but he comes out and pitches well. I think he'll earn himself another spot in the rotation or another turn in the rotation. So hopefully he can do so. I want to see him, be more confident in his stuff. We know he likes to pound the strike zone. Hitters now know that he likes to pound the strike zone. I think that maybe that hurt him a little bit in that Padres game that he had, but looking forward to see what he can do. He had 2 really good starts, as you mentioned, in Gwinnett, and then his last one was pretty bad for him. Gave up 6 earned in 3 innings in his last start in AAA. So looking forward to Dylan Dodd, seeing what he can do, and hopefully the Braves can get a sweep.
Another little stat line for you to take a look at, or another good statistic for the Braves here in 2023. They've been road warriors and 14-3 now away from Truist Park. 500 club at home. I think that'll change as the season wears on, of course, but you'll take this kind of work on the road, no matter who you are or where you play. It is never a guarantee to play this kind of ball away from home. Best road record in MLB right now. So Dylan Dodd will be looking to help the Braves add to that. He's a lefty on the mound for Atlanta. Southpaw Jesus Luzardo, who has really, I think, started to show some promise for the Miami club. He's 2-1, a 3.48 ERA. He'll be looking to help the Marlins avoid a sweep at the hands of the Atlanta Braves. That'll bring us to the end of the Locked On Sports Atlanta Braves postcast. As always, make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube. Click the bell to get notified. And if you made it this far, go ahead and leave us a like. It rewards you and us with a nice little thumbs up. And please leave a comment if you like. This was a pretty good game with a lot to comment on, and we always appreciate those. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Jake's got you covered with all kinds of great stuff year-round, and you get every episode of the postcast in audio form as well. So a nice little bonus from us to you. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. He's Jake Mastroianni. I'm Grant McAuley. Once again, your final score, 14-6. The Braves take it in a roller coaster, kind of emotional night for Atlanta. A couple of injuries, but a big-time win for the Braves who go for the sweep of the Marlins on Thursday afternoon. We will catch you after that game, and until then, so long, everyone.